every time and go to the command list, or that's probably a good idea. Yeah, I guess so. I'll do that. Okay, part 2. I'm going to cover all of the moves that I can remember, and I'm going to go through the move list to remind me, so hopefully that helps. I mentioned 112 earlier. I use 111 all the time. Really important, I think. I'm a big dead button player, and I'm a button listener, and let's face it, we don't play back-to-back in this country, so I'm using every tool that is available to me to win. And dead buttons is really important for every character in the game, including Wang. And 111 and a really loud third one is really important to cause hesitation for the opponent. It's really important. I mean, it may sound silly, but try it out. Yeah, trust me. Even the best players get frustrated. So really important. And I talked about that move a little earlier in the punishment section, so you could check that out. 1-4 I also talked about. It's a good punisher. 2 back is a good way for you to use a 10-frame punish to position change. Nothing is guaranteed afterwards, but of course you have a mix-up. If the opponent does a down 1, you could get a hop kick. If the opponent holds down back, you have to chase him down with a mix-up, because I think he can block anything you do. So basically, you know, it's just a good way to position change. It's not a good punisher. It only does 10 damage, but it does position change, and it looks pretty tricky too. So sometimes the opponent can just be like, "What the fuck?" and you know, you can score some you know, sneaky damage on him. But overall, not that useful. Very situational. Not too commonly used. Yeah, this is an option that he has to do afterwards. It's a back throw. You just do it by hitting 1+2 afterwards, but it's absolutely not guaranteed. I think they can even hold back to get out of it, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So yeah, it's not. I wouldn't do the 1+2 afterwards. I would just simply go for a mix-up, because the throw is not guaranteed. So you're gonna want to just do a mix-up. Next up, 2-3. I mentioned earlier, I think this move is a total piece of shit. I never ever use it. I think it's totally useless. A lot of Wang players, when I first started playing the character, were trying to tell me that it's a good move because it has a mid in it and it has some tracking, but I don't know if it had tracking in previous games. It definitely does not have tracking in this game. It has no range. It's super shitty. It's a big whiff, so easily whiff punished. It's also unsafe on block. So I personally think this move is, you know, you can delete it. And I'm generally the kind of guy that thinks that there is a place for almost every move, but with Wang, you can't really play that way. I think you just got to play simple, use your best tools, and play defense. Good defense, good whiff punishing. So yeah, this move not very good. Moving on. Okay, the triple spin razor kick things. These kicks, you know, his Magic 4 is an option. Let's start with his Magic 4. So his Magic 4, you can't combo off of it. I personally don't use it that much because Magic 4s have been nerfed in this game. And if you whiff his Magic 4, it has very short range. Less range than a standing jab. So if you whiff a Magic 4, I mean, it's really a bad situation. You will get whiff punished. And personally, I think that landing, you know, a Magic 4 combo, whatever combo you do, is a little too much risk compared to hitting with a counter hit 1-1-2. I personally would rather just fish for counter hits with forward 1-1 because the range is longer. It's 2 hits and it has some tracking because it's like a chop type of a move. The second one's like a chop, so it has a little bit more tracking than just a straight jab. And it's just better overall for counter hitting than a Magic 4, in my opinion. So again, Magic 4 almost can be deleted from your game. Again, in my opinion, this is. I know there are going to be other Wang players out there that think Magic 4 is really good or whatever, but I personally don't think it's very good for this character. Short ass leg, and forward 1 has more range. It's safer on whiff because of forward 1-1, and it's a counter hit confirmable. So again, it kind of replaces that move. His 4-4 can be useful if you don't overuse it, but it is low parryable on block. So the opponent can see that they blocked the standing 4 and low parry the second hit. So that can be dangerous. Don't abuse it, but it is usable. It's especially usable if you use it from a range, and if you're going to use the 4-4 down 4 option, only because it's got really good range. And the opponent usually doesn't want to duck because there's 4-4-1. 4-4-1 being a launcher. But again, all of these tactics are, you know, use them with a grain of salt. Not very, I wouldn't call them tournament winners. You know, this 4-4 tactic, not a tournament winner. So, you know, be careful when you use that shit. You have access to 4-4-4, which is safe, but it's high, the third hit. 4-4 down 4, which is unsafe. I think it's launch punishable, but it's low, and it does decent damage on hit. Oh, didn't reach. Actually, not decent damage on hit. It shows how little I use these tools. They're very risky overall. But I'll get to the use of down 4 mix-ups later. Down 4 is much more effective. It's essentially the same move as 4-4, but more effective. So moving on. Those are the 3 options I talked about right there. And now we got his first bound move, 1+2. This move is decent. It's a low hitting mid. It's safe on block. It does bound if they jump or if they're in the air in any way. It's usually used for for his wall bound and for his bound in the open. If you're gonna especially do this combo, it's a good bound move. That's his highest damage combo as far as I know. There may be some other tricky ones with like standing 4, whatever. You know, there's some other slightly higher, but yeah, it's a good bound move. You'll get it on accident sometimes, and it's not a bad accident move to get because it's mid, it's safe, does good damage on hit, and overall it's pretty solid. So not a terrible move, but you're not going to be using it that often. He has better options for mids, I think. Moving on, forward 2. I talked about this a little earlier. This move can be used as a punisher, especially one where if the move you blocked has a lot of pushback. Probably you use this to punish reverse ivory cutter, I think, if hop kick doesn't reach. Maybe moves like laws while standing 2. I don't remember exactly which moves there are that you have to punish with it, but there are some that you have to punish with this, or else you don't get a punish. You also will get this move sometimes on accident when you're trying to do forward 2 and you fuck it up. Like if you are trying to buffer forward 2 out of something, you'll sometimes get forward 2, in which case you can use forward 2, the delay, because you could delay this quite a bit to catch the opponent sleeping if they try to swing after forward 2. Also, I highly recommend the use of a dead button after a forward 2 here, because if they know about the delayed second hit, you can get a lot of hesitation frames off of the opponent if you push a dead button here. So then you could throw out a waning moon or whatever, because this is a... Oh, you know what I just realized? I have the... what do you call it? Turned off. Let me turn that on. Heads up information, attack properties. You guys might want to know that. So forward 2-2 is high mid. So you know that the second hit is mid, and because of that, they're going to be hesitating if you hit a dead button, because they're worried about that second mid that actually knocks down as well. So, you know, it's a useful tactic. I don't use that move intentionally that often, but it is a decent move, not useless. Moving on, this move, Tian Shan Jiao. This move is really, really good, really important, especially for his wall game, but it is also useful everywhere. It's a really, really low hitting, safe mid homing move, and it knocks down. So you can imagine that's extremely useful at the wall, and I'll cover that in his wall game later. But overall, I mean, look at the range on this. Solid range, and it's safe, and it tracks, and it's mid, and it goes... even low hitting stances have a hard time getting under it. So extremely important move, especially when you put them in a situation where they have to guess. Because a lot of times when you put a good player in a situation where they're at negative frames, they're going to either try to sidestep, duck, or attack. And this covers a lot of situations like that. Like, let's say you get them to block sidestep 1+2 horse tamer. There's nothing they could do about that but block or counter. Parry it. Other than that, they're pretty fucked, which is really, really great. I think it's extremely a very important move. One of the better homing moves that exist in the game. So I'll talk about that more in the wall section, but yeah, keep that in mind. Now, this move, Jiao Bu Shuang Ba. This move is useful. I think the first move is very useful for picking the opponent up off the ground. Let me see if I could show you an example of that. It will float if they back roll, and you can jab afterwards, like that. And it's a solid move overall. Generally speaking, though, I don't use it that much. I think down back as a string, you know, this forward 4 1+2 2. As a string, I think down back 2 4 1 does the same job but better. Down back 2 4 1 is a counter hit combo that's counter hit confirmable, and it does a lot of damage, leaves them standing. And this move, it has weird properties, like if the second hit counter hits, the third hit's guaranteed, and if the third hit counter hits, you get unique stuff. But yeah, it's not my thing. I don't love the move. I do use the first move, however. The first move is really good. It can randomly high crush under jabs, even though it's not a crush move. It'll go under some jabs, especially if your opponent has a really tall character like Marduk. It's also a very low hitting mid. As you saw earlier, it'll float. It's safe on block. So forward 4, I think, is a really really solid, you know, move in general. But again, as far as the whole string is concerned, I would go with down back 2 4 1 instead, just because of the low hitting hitbox, similarly to forward 4, except you can do the counter hit confirm and you get a good chunk of damage, especially on rage. If you have rage, counter hit down back 2 4 1 is super good, and down back 2 4 is safe. I'm going on a tangent because we're talking about this string, but I feel like this string reminds me of down back 2 4 1, and I think down back 2 4 1 is better. Also, I think down back 2 is a little bit faster than forward 4, so better for a hit confirm, counter hit confirm type of a tool. Let's see, moving on. Oh, that's also used in his wall combos. This is used in his wall combos, so I think it's really important for that. Let's see. Forward 1+2 energy blast. I mentioned earlier it's a good tool for wake ups. You can get up and block it, and it is unsafe. I think it's actually launch punishable, so you have to be careful how you use it. But it hits semi-grounded, so if the opponent is side rolling, I'll show you that right now. Actually, I won't show you that right now. You can imagine it. Forward 1+2, really good move for that. Now, let me give you a tip on using this, because Wang has a move that's forward 1+2, right? And that move is a mid-hitting whatever. It's not related in this context. But in the case of his bow and arrow, when you hit with his bow and arrow, a good wake-up option is forward 1+2. But if you do forward 1+2 like out of a crouch cancel off of this, because it leaves you in crouch, it's too far to be a good wake-up tool. So what you have to do is dash in. Now, if you dash in and try to do forward 1+2, you're going to get forward 1+2. So the way to the workaround for that is you do forward 1+2. So it cancels out the forward input, and it will give you a forward 1+2 again. So 3 forwards, and then you'll get the wake-ups. So any situation where you want to wake them up and they're on the ground and you want to do a forward 1+2, but you have to dash in, make sure you do 3 forward inputs, and then you'll get a forward 1+2. That's the trick to doing that on wake-ups. The move itself is really good because it's got such long range. It's a low hitting move, and it hits semi-grounded, so if they're rolling around, it's going to hit. So it's good for that. But again, it is unsafe, so be very cautious when using it. Let's see. Moving on. This unblockable is actually one of the more useful unblockables in the game. It is a launcher. I don't use it as much as I should. I think it's really good for predictable raw tag punishing. I haven't started using that. I have to start using it. It's really good. You can cancel it with down back. It has a built-in high crush property towards the middle of the animation. It has very few like unblockable sparks, so it's hard to see coming. I think it only has one. Like if you look, that spark only comes out one time. While if you look at other unblockables, look at all the flashes and shit that come out. Look at Dragunov's unblockable. All kinds of sparks come out warning the opponent that it's going to be an unblockable. But Wang's forward 2+4, only one flash comes out. So it can be really hard for the opponent to see that move and react to it accordingly. And it does a ton of damage. So really, really good move. I personally haven't started using it as much as I should, but I'm going to start. I think it's really important. Really good move for especially raw tag punishing. Moving on. Again, you cancel that with down back. Divine Knowledge. This is another unblockable that has one indicator that it's going to be an unblockable, so it can come out in a surprising way. I recommend, if you're going to use this move, using it near the wall, especially at an angle, like so that they can't sidestep it, because it's extremely linear. At an angle like this, it's pretty decent, just because it looks so weird and it is a launcher. I wouldn't use it too much. It's kind of a gimmick. It's kind of one of those things that you use in those situations where you've got your opponent hesitating so much that it's like, you know, they're just going to stand there and shit their pants. So it's good for that, but again, not a tournament winning strategy. Down forward 1-1 is a decent tool, decent poke. You're going to get it on accident more than you're going to get it on purpose. Down forward 1, if you accidentally get it, remember you have the you have access to a delayed second hit. Down forward 1-1. If it hits, they get knocked down like that, and you get a couple guaranteed hits, or you can try for wake ups. A wake up option for a rejuggle is, let me make him stand up. So let's see. Option for a quick recover is forward 4. Like that, and you can get a combo if they quick rise. That also should beat a back roll, and if they stay grounded, you can do the crumbling tower. I think that's if they stay grounded, or you can just do any kind of wake ups you want. So it's not the most useful tool in the world. You're gonna find that Wang has a lot of moves that you don't really, or at least I don't really want to use that often. That's what you're going to find. At this point, you're going to start to realize that. Down forward 1-1 is also a bound move. It's used, depending on the character you have him paired up with, you may want to use it as your wall combo bounder. But with Dragunov, you don't want to use that as often. You want the one-hit bound to get the high damage combo. So, you know, it's pretty solid overall. Let's see, where was I? Down forward 1-1. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent move. As I said, I get it on accident more than on purpose. But when you do get it on accident, you can employ the dead button tactics. So down forward 1-3 or down forward 1-2, and then they get scared, and then down forward 1 delayed 1, and you know, I mean that's just basically ways to cover your ass. Let me get a drink of water. Okay. Moving on. I mentioned down forward 2 and down forward 2-1 earlier. This is by far his best whiff punisher. You should be playing this character at the tip of this range, just outside of the range, as I mentioned earlier. The reason for that is you can do a quick backdash and punish anything, even a down 1. You can punish any whiff with this move if you do it right. And if you're sharp. So that's why it's really good to save this move for your whiff punishing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you got to be very, very careful with how you use it. A lot of times, if you watch my matches, I already mentioned this, but I want to reiterate it because it's super important. This move is hella fucking launch punishable. So you'll watch me play sometimes, and the opponent will whiff, and I'll only do a down forward 2. That's because I was watching that whiff, and I wasn't confident in this move hitting 100%. So I'll just hit the brakes on it. I won't hit the second hit. So essentially, you have to be really careful with it. Against every character except for Jinpachi, this move will always be a natural combo. If first hit hits, no matter what, 100% the second hit is going to hit. Even if it looks like it's not like that, it will always hit. Unless you're playing against Jinpachi. Jinpachi, sometimes the second hit will whiff. I think it has to do with the way he stands. He's got his pectorals sticking out, so You know, that might be a factor, but regardless, against every other character, you should be confident in that if they whiff and you're in range, bickety bam, they're going up in the air, no problemo. So that's really important, and his primary whiff punisher. And to be honest with you, some of you guys are going to be like surprised at this, but I personally think that down forward 2-1 makes down 1+2 completely useless. Down 1+2, I'll get to it when it comes up on the move list, but you know, I'll talk about that a little bit. But down forward 2-1, primary whiff punisher, extremely important. Also tag bufferable. Personally, I tag buffer it every time I do it. I think that Wang's options off of down forward 2-1 as far as solo combos are kind of shitty. So I always do it. I always bring in Dragunov. I think his options for combos are better. He has better wall carry options. So yeah, I always tag buffer it. Really, really important. Don't worry, Hatman. I will get to why I don't use down 1+2. Sorry I got you all riled up by saying that, but I have logic to my madness. I'll explain in a bit. This move, Gua Di Fang, is very, very important. This down forward 3 is one of the most unique lows in the game. As you can see, it has extremely long range, and despite the fact that it's really slow, it is very hard to see. And the reason for that is it looks just like down back 2, which is a mid. So if you are using down back 2 on occasion, just as a poke, down back 2-4, down back 2, you'll realize that you can start to mix in down forward 3, and the opponent is not going to be visually seeing it and blocking it. Even if they do see it and block it, it's only -13, which is pretty fucking good for a low like this. 24 damage on regular hit, great range, decent tracking, not great tracking. It hits on the ground, and it's really solid overall. Excuse me, 1 second. Let me clear my throat. Have some water. Okay, moving on with down forward 3. It is plus on hit, not an amazing amount of plus frames. I think it's +3. However, if you hit with counter hit, this move is plus like a billion. I think it's plus like 19 or something, but they can't. Nothing is free afterwards. It's just like one of those phony pluses. So when you hit with counter hit with this move, basically you could do whatever you want to the opponent. You can waning moon them. I mean, you have to do a crouch dash, of course, but you could do a waning moon. You could do whatever you want. It's such a huge frame advantage. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really, really good. So that's one of the reasons why this move is so important. You can move in with it, and it's complemented by down back 2-3, 2-4 so well that it just becomes a really dangerous tool for the opponent. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those tools that it really makes me like this character. Oh, and by the way, since I mentioned earlier his crouch dash is so unique, you can cover a ton of space by doing crouch dash down forward 3. And it works if you do it right. Crouch dash down forward 3, really, really good option. Moving on. Let's see here. Oh yeah, okay, so I mentioned earlier that Wang, one of his weaknesses is that he has shitty mids. So the only really useful mids that he has are up forward 3 and up forward 4. These are basically his mids. I mean, there isn't really that much else you can do that's like reasonably safe and not that risky. Back 2-1, I haven't talked about it too much yet, but it's not really that good. It is a 14 frame punisher, but it's not worth using as a 14 frame punisher because it's only 23 damage with not a lot of plus frames. But I don't even know why the fuck I started talking about that. What was I even talking about? Oh yeah, down forward 4. So yeah, I was talking about mids. The reason this mid is not that good is because the first hit alone is totally shitty, and if you do both hits, the opponent can crouch under the second hit and launch you. So very dangerous to do that. However, he does have this cheap mid that is basically his only mid poke, but it has great range, it's very fast, 12 frames, and it's safe, and it's really, really cheap for keep out. So if the opponent is coming in and you want to just keep them out, forward 1s and down forward 4s are your primary keep out tools. Down forward 4 is also very good because it has the option to do down forward 4-1, which is a natural counter hit combo. It's not hit confirmable, but the beauty of it is that the second hit is extremely safe. I think it's -7 to 9, so they can't punish it, and you can use that. So again, dead buttons, very important here. If you're doing down forward 4, you should always be doing down forward 4-4, because down forward 4-1 is such a clean extension of down forward 4 as far as animation goes. It just comes out of nowhere, boom, left hand, you know. So the opponent is going to get counter hit by it a lot. It doesn't do anything on counter hit, but it's safe. So if you're using down forward 4 as a keep out tool, you can use down forward 4-1 to complement it. And if you're using down forward 4-4 to cause hesitation, you can do stuff like down forward 4, down forward 4, down forward 4, down forward 4-1. And that kind of shit is going to just make them pull their fucking hair out, you know? So you got to be annoying. You got to be one of those to be successful with Wang. Just spamming, turtling, just throwing and spamming. That's what you got to do. Fucking L&L barbecue all day. Spam and rice. Play on. You know what I mean? So down forward 4, abusable mid. The only really abusable mid he has other than up forward 3. And very, very important to keep in mind. Moving on. Down forward 1+2. This move is only important in very, very unique situations. I use it in this situation where I hit with this on counter hit and I raw tag. It's guaranteed in that situation. They can't get up to avoid that. It is the most damaging, reasonably doable move that Wang has that hits the opponent grounded. He has other moves that hit the opponent grounded, but this one moves forward, it hits grounded, it hits side roll, it has a decent hitbox. It's just really slow. So I wouldn't use it in any situations where... So let me show you when you want to use it. I'm going to put the opponent on the ground right now. Let's see. So if the opponent is in this position, this move can be side rolled. So you don't want to use it in this position or in this position. You don't want to use it when they're straight. You want to use it when they're at an angle, because when they're at an angle, even if they side roll, this is going to hit on the ground and do a good chunk of damage. So that's when I use it. But otherwise, I think as far as when the opponent is standing, this move is completely useless. It's fucking hella slow. It's unsafe on block. Not very useful at all. I would not recommend the use of it for a standing move. And, you know, this is a trend I mentioned earlier. A lot of moves are very situational for this character. Moving on. Dragon Thrust. I think this move is pretty good. And I'll explain why as soon as I stand this moron up. It's too bad they can't just do voice command or some shit. Anyway, so down forward 3+4 is an attack throw. It does wall splat if they're behind you, and you can combo off of it with a bound move. It's +1, I think, on block, but only if they block it standing. If they block it crouching, the frame data is different. I think it's -5 or something. But if they block it standing, you get an uninterruptible 1-1 opportunity, or you get a hop kick or whatever the hell you want. You know, +1. Use it however you want to use it. Another use for this move is if you knock them down. Let me show you a setup. So in this case, you can use that to wall carry a little bit further after a bound. You can use it like this, down forward 3+4, and then wall carry like that. Or after a spike, you can do that into down forward. You have to. This is kind of odd. If you spike and then crouch cancel, it's really hard to do down forward 3+4 at the same time. I think there's actually a bug. I forget who it was, but someone in the chat showed me a bug where if you mash on up forward 3 after down forward 3, I don't know if it's going to come out right now, but you accidentally sometimes will get up forward 3+4, and that's a bug. The character has a few bugs, you know, in his move list. So I think this is one of them. If you do down 2 and you crouch cancel into down forward 3+4 because down 2 leaves you in crouch, if you do 3+4 at the same time after the crouch cancel, you get down forward 3. That's a bug. I'm hitting those moves at the same time, so it should be coming out as down forward 3+4. But what you can do as a workaround is do down 2, crouch cancel for a tilde 3, which means 1 frame shift from 4 to 3, and it'll still give you a down forward 3+4, and it beats the workaround. It's a workaround to not get that issue. So, moving on from that, oh yeah, I didn't mention how you can use that as a float. I'll show you that right now. Let's see here. Where the fuck is quick back roll? Back quick roll, okay. So if you launch, you spike, and do that, and they quick roll, you can jab them out of the back roll, and you can get another bound. So that's one way to use that. But otherwise, you know, not really the most useful move in the world. It's decent. I use it on occasion, but it's relatively situational. Moving on. Down 2 1+2. This is a really good tag assault move because the first hit spikes, the second hit picks up off of the spike, and it does a good amount of damage for a 2-hit string. So I use it for tag assault a lot. It's also very tricky for spike situations that I showed you earlier. So let's say you're going to do a combo like this, down forward 3+4, down 2 to spike, and then you get wake ups there. You know, people had, there is the option of doing a down 2, I'm sorry, a down 1 here to get a float, and that does work, but it's character specific, and I don't like it. I think it's unreliable, and I'm not a fan of it, so I don't use that. I think it's a waste of wake up situation. Let's see. Down 2 is a really good move because it leaves you in crouch, so you have options to do bow and arrow, which is down forward, full crouch down forward 4-3. You have options to do a hop kick, which is always good. You can do a homing move there, or you can do the built-in delayed 1+2 afterwards. Now, every time you do a down 2, I highly recommend the dead button here because of the delay option of the 1+2. And remember that in this case, if they get counter hit by that the second hit, they're gonna get comboed. So that's really important to remember. And you could do, I forget what the combo is actually, now that I think about it. You can always do back to 1, of course, but you know, there's ways to optimize the combos, and I'll show you guys combos later on in the tutorial. But yeah, down 2, a really solid hitting, low hitting move. Oh yeah, this is also really important. This move is really good and key against Eddie Christie. This move is always going to hit relax. It's going to knock him out of relax. So be very liberal with this move against Eddie and Christie. Really, really important. So moving on. Let's see here. Down 3-4. I use this move a lot. It's very risky. Down 3 itself is not that risky. It's really fast. I think it's 15 frames. Cheap poke. It high crushes. It has good range. It has decent tracking up close. It doesn't do anything as far as frame data. I think it's -1 or 0 on hit. Probably -1. And you cannot hit confirm, counter hit confirm the second hit. However, because this move instantly high crushes, you can use it similarly to Law's down 2-3. It's dangerous because good players will crouch under the second hit, but sometimes, you know, you just have a great read and you could just go under jabs with it. It does wall splat and does a good amount of damage for a wall splat. But generally speaking, you're going to definitely want to focus on just the down 3. Down 3 is really, really an important poke for this character. And you could do it from crouch dash. So the cool thing about doing down 3 from crouch dash is you're high crushing the whole time. The crouch dash itself has a high crush, and then the move itself has a high crush. So that's a decent way to move in and high crush at the same time. The range on it is kind of weak, but I mean, it's a usable low. It's really important. And I mentioned for wake ups, it's really good. Let's see. Moving on. Down 4-1, I think, is a very important trolley move. This is basically Law's down 2-3. It's a high crushing counter hit launcher against characters like Law or Lee or Oh, it's so good against Brian. Jesus Christ. I'm glad I remembered this. So, this move is really cheap because if you can see how low Wang gets during the animation, this animation will go under tons of mids. So, yeah, it is a high crush counter hit launcher, and it is tag bufferable, which is also very important. Getting red life combos, extremely damaging, but on top of all that shit that's like on the surface, this move will go under a ton of mids, one of which being an orbital heal. This move will go directly under an orbital heal, and Brian is just gonna be fucking pissed, and I love that. I love that about this move. It will go right under mids. Use it when you're sure the opponent is going to attack with a high string, more specifically, and always tag buffer it because it's gonna do a ton of damage. It's really great. I highly recommend the use of this move. The problem though is it's not counter hit confirmable, so you're gonna swing with that second hit on occasion. So what I like to do is I like to space, and I just like to use down 4. Space out, use down 4. It's not that good of a low as far as frame data goes, but if you do down 4-2 and you're representing it as a dead button, the second hit can be surprising if you train the opponent correctly. Now, if they do block the second hit, it is minus 14. So you have to be careful what characters you use this on. So as I mentioned, this goes under Brian's orbital heal, but Brian also has a 14 frame launcher. So does Paul, so does who else? Lars. A ton of characters have 14 frame launchers. Against those characters, you have to be relatively conservative when you finish this string. You have to be very careful how you use it because they can launch you, and since I mentioned earlier, it's a 2-hit string. Even shitty players will punish it. Good players obviously will punish everything. You have to assume a good player will punish everything, but even shitty players will punish this. So it can be risky if the opponent has a 14 frame launcher. Off of down 4, because of the importance of down 4-1 being a counter hit launcher that's tag bufferable and blah 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 blah, down 4-4 is it becomes very useful. It's not a natural combo, but the opponent is not going to want to duck because they're going to be ducking to get launched by this tag bufferable launcher. So down 4-4, as long as you don't abuse it too much, can be used. Down 4, down 4. That's not down 4-4. Down 4-4 is this. A low-high string, which is safe on block. Now, this is the least used of the 3 options. So off of down 4, you have down 4-1. This is the most used of the option, other than down 4 by itself. Then you have down 4 to complement the mid. Keep in mind, you're going to want to use dead buttons on occasion as well. And then the third least used option is down 4, standing 4. It is safe, but I don't see much purpose in using it because the opponent is usually not going to duck. Is not going to stand. Let me rephrase all of this. So, why the fuck would you mix up a high follow-up when you have a low and a mid? That's the simplest way to put it. It doesn't matter that it's safe. It's a high. You're doing a mix-up, so you're going to want to do a mid versus a low. Basics of 50-50s. For that reason, down 4, neutral 4, because it's a high, it's very limited use. The only reason to ever use it is because there's no logical reason to use it. You can use it, but there's no logical reason to use it. I can't find one. So just keep that in mind. Let's see, moving on. Down 1+2. Now, I mentioned earlier that down 4-2-1 makes this move completely obsolete. Now, some people are going to be kind of not pleased about that because the move itself is minus 14 on block as opposed to launch punishable on block like this. However, the move is 20 frames, I think, or maybe 18 frames. I forgot how fast it is. If someone in the chat could tell me how fast down 1+2 is, I'd appreciate it. But regardless of how fast it is, it's way slower than down 4-2-1. So you have, let's do a side-by-side Pepsi challenge here. So let's say you're talking about down 1+2 versus down 4-2-1 as just general tools. As a whiff punisher, down 1+2 has what I think is worse range, but I guess it's more range. I don't know. It feels like when I use this move, the opponent backdashes it more than down forward 2-1. So it's hard to say which has more range, like, precisely. It might also depend on what character you're playing against. But I'd say the range is comparable. As far as a whiff punisher, it's definitely slower. Okay, Huber Dozer, thank you. It says it's 20 to 21 frames. So that's obviously way fucking slower than down forward 2-1 as a whiff punish. So if you're playing Wang in the primary range that I mentioned, which is right here, and the opponent whiffs something very small, like a standing jab or a down one, you can hit them easily, whiff punish them with down forward 2-1. However, you cannot easily whiff punish with down 1+2. So as a whiff punisher, down 1+2 I think loses to down forward 2-1. So that's as a whiff punisher. As a block punisher, it's 20 frames instead of 16. Obviously loses to down forward 2-1. The only scenario, the only reason why down 1+2 is better than down forward 2-1, and this even includes combo damage as far as I remember, the only reason is that it's only -14 as opposed to minus like 17 or whatever that this is. Now, here's the reason why that doesn't matter too much to me. If you're trying your very, very best, if you're playing extremely sharp, and you use down 1+2 over down forward 2-1, all you're telling me is that you are not confident in your delay catching and or whiff punishing. Because why do you care how unsafe a move is if you're gonna hit with it? It's kind of like those people that use like Last Stand in Call of Duty 1. You know, when you die, why would you use a perk that only works if you lose? You know, it's like you don't want to count on fucking up, you want to count on doing it right. So in this case, I personally think that if you're using down 1+2 as a whiff punisher, you're saying to yourself, I'm not going to do this right. So I need it to be -14 instead of -17 just in case I do it wrong. And that's not a good way to play, I think. A good way to play is, I know that down forward 2-1 is extremely unsafe, so for that reason, I'm going to do it right every time. And it's not that hard to do. I mean, I'm not a great player, you know, I just know how to play. And I think that down forward 2-1 much more useful than down 1+2. So much so that I can honestly say it's not even worth doing. I'm sorry, I know some people in the chat disagree with me. I know some people who watch this will disagree with me. This is my personal opinion. Down 1+2, I mean, you can throw it out. The one thing that this move has that down forward 2-1 does not have, and this is a gimmick, is that it's a one-hit move. So middle level players are going to punish it way less than down forward 2-1. So if you're going to be preying off your opponent's shittiness, down 1+2 can be used. But I wouldn't use it as a whiff punish. I would use it as a mid. That's how I would use it. Just a mid that, you know, if the opponent is ducking, you know, I use it sometimes in this scenario. I'll show you when I use it. It's not completely useless. This is a scenario I use it in. So let's say the opponent is going to get up crouching in this situation. If you knock them down with down 2 and, oh, I got to turn quick back roll off. Stand up. Okay, so you do a generic solo combo, and you're gonna wake them up with a spike. If they get up crouching in that scenario to avoid a sidestep 4 or sidestep 3 or whatever low you're using after the spike, I personally like to use down 1+2 sometimes, just because it has a weird block, push block, and you know, it's just a one-hit move that hits mid, and it's just one of those moves where if you're 100% sure they're gonna duck, you know, it's good damage, and you're gonna do, you know, a tag buff bull combo. So for that reason, as opposed to the hop kick, because in that scenario when you spike them, a hop kick is usually the big mid of choice. So if you spike, you're gonna want to sidestep hop kick to make it look like spike into sidestep 4. So that's your mix-up after a spike. That's what I use for a 50-50. But if you want, you can use sidestep down 1+2 because it's more damage. So more damage, tag bufferable, unlike the hop kick. That's the only use for it, in my opinion. Otherwise, out in the open, not very useful from my perspective. Moving on, Crumbling Tower. This is a very important low because you can do it from crouch dash. It does a ton of damage. It's unseeable, and it gives you a shitload of plus frames. From this on hit, you can do essentially you can do a 50-50. You can do a waning moon. You can do all kinds of stuff. This move is really exceptionally good at the wall, and I'll show you why. It's also free after a bow and arrow at the wall. They can, of course, tag crash it, but if you do this fast enough, after a bow and arrow near the wall, let me turn this idiot off so he doesn't crouch guard. Oh, fuck. Took him all the way away from the wall. Okay. So if you hit with a bow and arrow and you crouch cancel fast enough, which I did not do there. But that wasn't fast enough. He could have blocked that. You got to do it real fast. And you got to not be doing a tutorial to do it, of course. Son of a bitch. There we go. That's 100% guaranteed, and it re-spikes them to the ground. So that's really good about Crumbling Tower. It's also, as I mentioned, unseeable, ton of damage, but you got to be careful. If they're guest ducking, that shit is going to be launch punishable. So be very careful. It's very unsafe. It's just unseeable. So don't be predictable. You know my philosophy. I've mentioned it before, but my philosophy on unseeable lows is you can't blame the low. If it gets blocked, it's your fault because the opponent guessed right and you were predictable. So don't be discouraged. Just put it in places where it's not going to be, it's not going to be blocked. So it's a really good move. There are some setups where you can hit the opponent with it at their back. If you hit the opponent's back or side with this move, it makes a hop kick guaranteed. It has to be like towards their back though. Like this, hop kick is 100% guaranteed there. There's nothing they could do about it. Even a raw tag. So that's really good. If you ever hit their back with it, because the animation pushes them into you, which is really fucked up. It has the same animation on a front hit or a back hit, so that's really good. Let's see, moving on. Man, I'm getting really hungry. I mentioned this string earlier. This is the last move I'm going to cover before I take a break. I got to go get a Nutrigrain or some bullshit. Anyway, this move is really important for Rage. When you have Rage, you should be counter hit fishing with down back 2-4. Down back 2-4-1 is a counter hit combo. And with Rage, it does a ton of damage, around 50% or more. So you have to be very cautious of that when you hit that counter hit. Now, down back 2-4, I mentioned earlier, complements down forward 3 because they look very similar. So if you're using down forward 2-4, you can use it pretty liberally because it's pretty safe. I think it might be -10, but I think it's actually totally safe. And I think that it's really important to use for that purpose. You use down back 2-4 for a mid-mid string that you're hit confirming, counter hit confirming, and you're also using it to set up down forward 3. And then the third hit always comes out when, you get the counter hit. The third hit, I think, is -10, but it has a good amount of pushback, so a lot of jabs will whiff. So that's really good. It might be -11 or 12 or something, but generally speaking, jabs will whiff on occasion. Now, there is a second option to this string, a second ender, which is down back 2-4-2. Down back 2-4-2 is safe on block, but it's high. And you can charge it, and if you charge it, it's plus on block. Now, the full charge version is basically a gimmick, because as soon as the opponent sees you charging it, they can duck and launch you. However, and also the plus frames on it are shitty too, because they're so far away, all you can really do is like Waning Moon mix-up or whatever. But I don't really use this that much. The only time that's useful is in combos where you bind early. You can use that third hit to float and then continue the combo. But otherwise, it's not really that good. The good option for this is the the one follow-up. Just because it's mid, it's safe, relatively safe because of the pushback, and you can counter hit confirm it, and it's all a natural combo on counter hit. Okay, so I covered both these moves. Now I'm gonna take a break, guys. So I'm gonna go get a Nutrigrain, and I'm gonna have a cigarette, and I'll be back in a bit to cover the rest